This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you, to the glory of God, and to the benefit of all those who listen. Praise God. Once again, my friends, this is iPad for All Computing. Welcome. And this is actually session number 6. We typically recommend the landscape orientation. Either one is fine. If you want to use it with the charge port to the left or to the right, that's okay. But we're going to be spending most of our time in landscape mode. And if you do happen to use one of the magic keyboard options, or really any smart keyboard where the iPad is connected magnetically to the keyboard, you will be using the iPad in landscape mode. Then you really don't have a choice, because that's how they're configured to fit in the keyboard cases and so on. All right, so we're going to be in landscape mode, and we're going to take a look then again at the control center for just a moment. You'll remember the control center, and I'm actually in Zoom right now. You can hear that and
sharing screen.
See that if you see it.
You are sharing screen. Share device audio. Switched button on.
See, so we're in Zoom.
Double tap to talk.
And even in Zoom, I can use the control center by doing that gesture, which is the slide down from the top.
Control center.
Okay. And so
optimize. Quick note button. Pay quick scan code. Flashlight selected. Screen recording.
You can
button.
see that I'm in the control center.
Double tap and hold to.
You remember that the control center has multiple pages. Our sighted users can just tap on the one that they want to bring it forward, but we have the favorites. We have now playing, we have home, and we have connectivity. If you are sighted, it is definitely suggested that you swipe down from the top right corner to get to control center, whereas if you swipe from the top middle, you're going to get notifications. And if you swipe from the regular middle, not the top, you'll get Spotlight, which we're going to talk about momentarily. But let's just go back. I just want to remind you of these controls at the very beginning of the control center. If I go to the top,
Add controls button.
We have an Add Controls button. And we touched briefly on that Monday, but I just wanted to go a little bit more in depth to that. When you double tap as a voiceover user, or just tap once as a sighted user on that icon to add controls, what you are essentially doing is you're bringing up an interface where you can not only add controls, but you can edit and rearrange the controls that you already have in Control Center. If there's something you don't want in here, you can remove it, and you can reorder things, and you can add other things. And different apps that you have may even provide additional controls that you can add. So let me just show you that. I'm going to hit Add Controls.
Add Controls button. Add control connectivity is editing 2x2. Stop editing controls.
Look, if I use the rotor.
Delete. Resize to 4x8. Show controls gallery. Drag connectivity. Activate.
So you see how I can move those. But I want to go now clear to the bottom.
Add a control button.
Where I see this Add a Control button. Just to show you the kinds of things we can add that may or may not already be in here.
Add a control. Laura Gardner. Search controls. Search field.
You can actually search
Double tap to edit.
For existing controls, or we can start swiping.
Translate. Control. Activate to add to control center.
So if I want to add a translate control to quickly translate something to another language, I can double tap that.
Search. Alarm. Control. Timer. Text size. Magnifier. Voice memo. Dark mode. Flashlight. Stopwatch. Screen recording. Control.
Now, some of these I will tell you are already in Control Center. We could have looked first, and if you're really going to do this, you should look first to see what all you already have. I know that screen recording is already in there. Flashlight we heard together is already in there.
Quick note, control.
Quick note is already in there.
Low power mode, scan code, home, screen mirroring, recognize music, ambient music, sleep, control, chill.
Okay.
Amber.
You get the idea. Here's the recipe app, Amber.
Previous instruction, next instruction, schedule recipe, show recipes and tag, open recipe, control.
You can actually
activate to add to
even
control
some
center.
so that's a third-party app, but it features controls that can be added.
Open my recipes, open tags, open for you, open meal plans, open gallery, create recipe from audio, control, create recipe from image, Apple Intelligence and Siri, heading.
Okay, you have so just a lot of choices. So we're going to
search control, translate, control,
swipe out of that, and then
connect. Now playing is editing. Orientation lock.
Get out
is
of that
editing.
as well.
Lock rotation. Switch button off.
Okay.
Double tap to Alice.
And I'll swipe up
Zoom.
again. Now I'm going to swipe up one more time to go to the home screen.
Marshmallows.
Okay, we're now on the home screen.
Convoy.
And so
double tap to open.
I just wanted to point that out because it's possible to add controls, to reorder controls, and I thought I should show you that. And on Monday, we showed you that you can long press on your lock screen, remember? And then you can change the color, you can change the wallpaper, you can link a focus, you can add, additional lock screens and so forth, and switch between existing ones that you've created. I think I shared with you that my daughter likes to create different ones for me and, use different photos and stuff. So I have several, at least on my iPhone. I don't know that she's done as many on the iPad, but you can certainly do that. So these are just a reminders of some things that we covered on Monday, just to kind of get caught up to where we want to be now. Now, I mentioned to you that if you use a one finger swipe from the top right corner, that is control center. And for our voiceover users, it's just you tap on the very top edge of the screen, you hear the little blip, and you swipe down till you hear the second little blip. But then notification center for our voiceover users is you swipe down until the third little blip. For the non-voiceover users, it's a swipe down from the top middle to get notification center. So it's a little bit different. And then if you're not on the top, if you're just right in the middle and you swipe down, you're going to bring up something called Spotlight. And Spotlight is the next thing that I'd like to actually talk about. There's another way we can get Spotlight. Let me go to the page selector.
Riddle quit page 405. Page. Set page 105.
And
adjustable.
I think we can do it.
Adjust value down or scroll left to show today view.
Maybe
Swipe
not.
Up or down with one
I guess that's only on the iPhone. On the iPhone, we can double tap that page selector to bring up Spotlight. But let's see.
Page 105.
Yeah, it's not going to work on the iPad to do that. So if you're using an iPhone, you can double tap on that page selector, or a non-voiceover user could just tap once on it. For us, we have to do the swipe. And the way we're going to do that with voiceover, again, sighted users, you're just going to swipe down from the middle.
Settings.
Okay, like some of these
Double tap
icons.
to open.
For our voiceover users,
Spotlight.
we do a
Join.
We do a 3-finger swipe down from the middle. And that's what I just did, and you heard it say Spotlight. Now, Spotlight is a place where you can search for just about anything. And I will be honest with you, I don't use it very much because I can use SIRI. But it will do some of the same things, and it is convenient and handy to be aware of it, so I wanted to show it to you.
Next meeting.
We are...
Mail. Files. Safari.
Let's see.
Keyboard. Button. Live. Dim.
Okay.
Suggest less. Blue Jays versus...
So what I can do here...
Phillies versus sports.
It's got some suggestions already.
Scan document. Join next meeting. Mail. Files. Safari. Ferrite.
Right.
Messages. Zoom.
Some app suggestions.
Show more. Siri suggestions. Text field is editing.
And I'm in an edit field, so I can just start typing. So we could type something, like, let's say we want to look up a definition of a word. We could type definition of gumdrop.
12 items found.
Swipe to the right.
Clear text. Top hit. Gum, middle dot, drop vertical line modifier vertical line script Gschwayam modifier low vertical line drop vertical line noun, affirm, translucent candy made with gelatin or gum Arabic, New Oxford American Dictionary, button. Suggestions.
Then you have
Definition of gumdrop. Definition of gumdrops.
suggestions too. But notice it already gave the definition without me even pressing return or the search button or anything. As I type, it updates the results and it gave me the definition. So we could do something else.
Top clear text.
Let's clear
button.
that text.
Definition of
To the right of I read it field, as we often do, we see a clear text button. Let's try something like this. How about if I do like 8 cups to pints?
8 top spit top s.
So I write
Clear text conversion. 8 cups to pints equals 4 pints.
and there you go. So it's that easy. And this is Spotlight. And
Clear text. 8 cups.
you can pretty much search for anything. You can search for apps on your iPad. You can search for contacts that you may have in your contacts list, calendar events. You can search for music and movies. Really anything you can think of, you can put in here. But we're going to swipe up to go home, because I want to point out
Top settings
that all of these things and more can be done with SIRI. Now, I can't show you SIRI on the same device while we're in this Zoom call, but I certainly can use my phone to show you a lot of the same things. And depending on exactly what device you have, you may or may not have Apple Intelligence, so it can vary exactly, but a lot of this stuff's going to be available regardless. Siri has gotten very smart, and we can press and hold the top button normally to activate Siri, although if you're using the Zoom call, you won't be able to activate it, but otherwise you can press and hold the top button on your iPad, or if you've configured it in such a way, you can also speak her name or say hey and then her name. I won't do that because I set off people's devices, right? But let's just do some demos here, just have some fun with Siri for a few minutes using my phone since I'm on the iPad already. And so get some sound here.
Double tap to open.
Just some of the kinds of things we can do. There's no way, you realize there's no way we're going to be able to do all of it. It's so extensive, right? But here we go. How are you doing today?
I'm happy to be here.
What's the weather like outside?
It's currently cloudy and 56 degrees. Expect thunderstorms starting early evening. Temperatures are heading down from 57 to 42 degrees tonight.
Now watch the nuance of the language. Will I need an umbrella today?
It might rain on and off today.
See, she understands that. All right, let's do our same conversion that we did on the iPad in Spotlight. How many pints are in 8 cups?
8 cups is 4 pints.
How do you say, I am currently teaching an iPad class in Spanish?
In Spanish, I am currently teaching an iPad class is
Actualmente estoy dando una clase de iPad.
And they show that on the screen as well. I'm looking... Whoop, we got a notification there.
Dismiss.
Okay. I'm looking for a pizza place near me.
One possibility I see is Best Way Pizza on East South Hopewell Street in Everett, a little over a mile to your east, and it gets 4 stars on Yelp. Want to try that one?
No.
The second is Original Italian Pizza on East Main Street in Everett, a little over a mile to your east, and it gets 5 stars on Yelp. How about that one?
Yes, please.
Great. I can call or get directions. Just tell me what you'd like to do.
Get directions.
Getting directions to Original Italian Pizza.
We could have called as well.
Maps. Map.
Got the directions.
Water Street, north south.
Starting route to Original
Start
Italian
on Locust
Pizza.
Drive.
Head northeast on Locust
And it actually
Drive.
is also,
Then take the first
it's telling
right
me
onto
exactly
Main
what to
Street.
do. We're going to end this, of course. We're going to learn about maps on the iPad later on in the course, but
Map. Start. Right cable. Come over audio. Arrival. 5. 1 point. Expand. Route options. Collapse. Restaurant. Call. Add stop. Share. Report. Voice. En route. Button. My location. Original map. Card. Map. Track. Wind. Original. 7. Call. Webs. Order. More.
You can
Select.
order. There's a website.
Share,
all of those different things.
button,
It's really
add,
got a lot of
add,
information.
distance,
But I'm going to
cost,
close that
rate,
card
hour,
for now
close, share, button,
because
hours, rate, only
we're not learning about maps
cost,
today.
hour,
There was the close button. I missed it there. I got it. All right, let's go
Search
back
maps,
and
search
let's
field.
do some more
Double tap to edit.
stuff with SIRI.
Apps up.
When is my son's birthday?
Carson Valbrecht's birthday is 24 days away on March 29th.
And see, I've given SIRI the information that she needs to be able to answer that question, so she knows who my son is, and I've included his birthday in the contact card. And I could certainly use it to send a message. I could say, tell my son I am teaching the iPad class for another hour or whatever. I could send a message that way. I could read messages that way. I can add events to the calendar, and I can add things to reminders with SIRI. We're going to learn in this class about grocery lists in the Reminders app, and I definitely use that with SIRI. There's also a lot of really complicated stuff that she's learned to do, and she's become very, very brilliant. So, for example, I've used this before in some Siri demos, so some of you might have heard this, but I'm very much into aviation, and so if I were to say, what is the difference between a ram air turbine and an auxiliary power unit?
A ram air turbine, RAT, and an auxiliary power unit, APU, are both backup power sources, but the APU is a dedicated engine that kicks in during engine failure, while the RAT is a smaller turbine that deploys in emergency situations to provide limited power. This answer is from chelmervalve.com.
Now, if I were to say something like this, give me some recipes using chicken and zucchini. On my screen, if I tap,
Baked chicken.
It seems like your
she
message
thought I
is
was talking to
incomplete.
her. Give me some recipes using chicken and zucchini. I won't say anything this time.
Zucchini and chicken pasta using spiralized zucchini noodles, tossed with grilled chicken and pesto. Baked chicken zucchini casserole layered with cheese, marinara sauce, and fresh herbs. Chicken and zucchini stir fry with soy sauce. Grilled chicken and zucchini's copy button.
And you can copy this, and it will then be able to put it you can put it into notes or whatever it is that you choose to do. You can save that information, and if you have a free ChatGPT account, it'll also automatically go to the app for you if you have the app installed. So it's a really convenient way. Another thing we can do with SIRI using ChatGPT, for example, is if I let's just open up a photo very quickly, and we're going to learn about the Photos app, of course, in this class too. But what I will say is that if you have a photo that maybe somebody has sent you in a message or something,
10 p.m. shared, unsaved.
let's see what this is.
More content available. A dog lying on a blanket on a couch.
Okay, that's what VoiceOver says it is, a dog lying on a blanket on a couch. Let's open it up and let's ask for more details here. What's in this photo?
Do you want me to send this photo to ChatGPT?
Yes, please.
The photo shows a small dog lying on a patterned blanket with some toys around it. There is a plush chicken toy and a pink toy near the dog, which is partly covered by a purple blanket. The setting appears to be a comfortable and cozy area, likely indoors. That was from ChatGPT. Check important info for mistakes.
Yes, please.
Okay,
yes, please.
Get out of that. Isn't that cool? Praise God. Now, let's get out of this and let's close my
Home dash cellular home location photos shift home back button.
Library.
Photos, video, live video, close button, close library button.
All right, and let's while we're on the subject of dogs, let's do something like this. Is it safe to feed my dog blueberries?
Yes, blueberries are safe for dogs to eat in moderation. They are a healthy treat option, providing antioxidants, fiber, and vitamins. That was from ChatGPT. Check important info for mistakes.
And she is right. And our dog happens to really like blueberries, and it's funny because for for her, it's like a toy and a treat all in one. She plays with it like a ball first, and then she eats it. So it's really cute. Of course, Siri even has a sense of humor too. Tell me a joke.
A teacher asks a student, if I give you 4 cats today and then 2 tomorrow, how many cats would you have? The student answers, 7. That's wrong, says the teacher. No, protests the student. You're wrong? The teacher sighs and explains, 4 plus 2 is 6. The student replies, yes, but I've already got a cat.
Oh my. Okay, that's actually pretty good. And we can all sorts of but so my advice in all of this is to play with SIRI and try different things. And you're either going to get the answer, or you're going to get a web result, or you're going to get something useful. And the more things you can use it to play music and to start movies or TV shows. You can, if music is playing in the background, you can have her listen and identify songs that are playing. You can use it to control various features on your phone, turn on do not disturb, these kinds of things, open apps for you, certainly. And of course, you also have the ability, if you are equipped with various HomeKit accessories, I could say something like this. Is the garage door closed?
The main garage door is closed.
I can do the coffee maker, I can do lights, the thermostat, all kinds of things there. And depending on what HomeKit accessories you have, you can do that too. So there's just so many possibilities. I mean, it's kind of amazing, really, all of the things that can be done. And of course, that does extend, as I said earlier, to sending messages, reading messages, even, answering phone calls and things of that nature. Okay, now what I'd like to do is I'd like to switch gears a little bit. You can continue to, there we go. You can continue to play with SIRI at your convenience, and I highly encourage you to do so. We couldn't show that on the iPad. We had to use another device because the iPad is connected to this Zoom call, of course. But now what I want to do is I want to talk to you about something completely different. And we're going to, for today's purposes, we're going to be using the Settings app because I want to give you a chance to let me point out some useful settings that you might take a look at when you have opportunity. But before we can do that, we need to start talking about the infamous split screen. And I say infamous because it has developed that reputation. It's actually quite good. I don't have any problem with it, and I don't think you will either once you've been properly trained. But the reason I say that is because that always seems to be the rub for people if they don't know how to properly use it. They get their new iPad and they say, oh my, I was doing well until the split screen thing happened. How can I do away with this? I can't handle it. I don't know how to use that. Or people, I mean, it's gotten even a reputation. Well, it's not a well-deserved reputation. It's just, again, people have not been properly trained to how to deal with it. So, first and foremost, you need to understand that in most cases, you're not going to be able to disable the split screen feature. There are certain split screen aspects to the iPad that you can avoid. You don't have to use split screen multitasking where you have two apps on the screen at once, although we're going to teach you how to do that later on in the course as well. And there are times that I find that to be very useful. I was recently doing a I guess I was writing. It had to do with Bible scriptures. I think I was writing notes in about different scriptures, or I was using them for something I was trying to write notes about. And what I did was I used the Bible app on one side of the screen to read the scriptures, and then I would tap on the note on the other side of the screen in the Notes app, and I would write them in there. And I've done this with other things. I've done it with spreadsheets while I'm reading a spreadsheet. I'm writing a report in Pages or something. I like the split screen multitasking. Again, when you learn how to properly deal with it, you can use it to your advantage. But that's something that's optional, right? We don't have to do two apps on the screen at one time if we don't want to. But there are going to be certain apps on the iPad that are automatically designed in a split view interface, and that's just the way that it is. It's because there's extra screen real estate, and we're going to spend a lot of time getting comfortable with this and getting to know it in different apps. We'll use it in Messages next week. We'll use it in Mail. We'll use it in Notes. There's a lot of places, and today we're going to use it in Settings. Now, in order for us to really understand how this works, we need to have a little bit of a visual concept of how it's laid out. This is why I have expressed each year, and the other trainers as well, Cliff and Sarah, that it is so critical that we use the touchscreen at this stage of the game, right? If you want to use a keyboard, that is perfectly fine, and later on we're going to teach keyboards. And if you're writing long documents or responding to long emails, and it's easier for you to type, by all means, do what works for you. But we need to learn how to navigate on the touchscreen first. Because if we try right away, right out of the gate, to use the keyboard for basic navigation, we're never going to get an understanding of how the screen is laid out. We're not going to appreciate it, we're not going to be able to use it, and it's going to slow us down significantly. So we ask everybody to put aside the idea of a keyboard right now and to focus entirely on the touchscreen. When you open an app that has this split view interface that we're talking about, what you're going to find is that the app has two different things going on the screen at the same time. Remember, we are working in landscape mode at this moment. So what we have is, let's pretend we're in the Settings app already, because that's where we're going to be in a few minutes. So let's use Settings as an example. When we open the Settings app, and I'll show this to you, the left side of the screen has all of the main settings categories that you are used to. Your name, airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, notifications, all that stuff. The right side of the screen has whatever the details about whatever you've selected on the left. So if I select, for example, my Wi-Fi on the left, then on the right it's going to show me the list of Wi-Fi networks and Wi-Fi settings. Now this is quite different from the iPhone, where the whole screen changes when you select something in Settings, right? Well, I've got my iPhone right here. Now if I open Settings on my iPhone,
Music, AV settings.
I open Wi-Fi.
Settings.
Now let's open Wi-Fi.
Airplane, Wi-Fi.
Now what happens? The whole screen
Wi-Fi, heading.
is the Wi-Fi settings pane, and at the very top left of the iPhone screen,
Settings, back button.
there's a back button, and that takes me back
Wi-Fi.
out of Wi-Fi settings
Settings.
and back to just the regular settings screen.
2:34
Well,
p.m.
You're going to find,
Weather,
turn
56
that down again.
degrees.
You're going to find that is very different on the iPad. When you select Wi-Fi, for example, on the left, nothing on the left is going to change. If you don't know any better, you're going to think nothing even happened. Sometimes, and quite honestly, most often, VoiceOver will helpfully automatically move the VoiceOver cursor to the right hand side of the screen so that you are now accessing what you double tapped on the left. But even if it doesn't, the stuff is there on the right. The Wi-Fi settings in this case are displayed on the right, but there's no back button because there's no place to go back. All that happens is you selected something on the left. It shows that it's selected, but everything on the left stays there. On the right, it displays what you've selected on the left, if that makes any sense. Let me demonstrate this for you in a moment, but let me say one other thing first. When I was first learning this and attempting to teach it to people, I tried to picture the iPad as if it were set up in 4 quadrants, which it's really not. It's really set up in just 2 sides on the split screen. But thinking about it in quadrants can help you when we start trying to identify where we need to go for things. And so I imagined taking like those, you remember those wiki sticks or puffy paint or something, and I imagine if the screen had that I could feel that there would be like a vertical bar separating the top quadrant from the bottom quadrant. There'd be a long line in the middle. That would actually be a vertical line. I guess the other ones would be horizontal going across the iPad. This would be like a tall vertical bar going up and down right in the middle of the screen, separating the left quadrant from the right quadrant. Now, there really is not that kind of thing visually on the screen. They don't have bars and lines that separate, the sides of the screen and everything, but you can imagine there being a separation there because what is on one side of the screen will never cross to the other side. So before I say any more, I think what's really going to be helpful is just to start demonstrating this. So,
Camera, App Store, Book, Podcast, TV, News, Settings. Settings.
okay, we're in settings, and I can tell you that on the iPad, by default, the general category gets selected on the left. Let's look at that. I'm touching the left side of the iPad, and I'm going to say maybe if we imagine that sort of artificial idea of quadrants, I'm going to touch kind of the upper left quadrant, but I'll be touching near what would be the bottom of the upper left quadrant, right above where that imaginary line would be. And that's because I already know from experience that if I touch the clear top left below the status bar, that's the very beginning of settings on the left. Let me show you.
Settings, heading. Settings,
See,
heading.
I can't go any more to the left. But I'm going to touch lower down, and I will be partway through the categories, hopefully pretty close to general, and then I can swipe left or right until I find general.
Bluetooth, cellular, battery, selected, general, button.
And notice it said selected, general. So if I now lift my hand and I move it to the right-hand side of the screen, and we will say that we will try to go to the top of the upper right quadrant. So what that's going to mean is you imagine a quadrant on the right side of the screen, the upper right quadrant. We're going to go as far to the left of that upper right quadrant as we can possibly go. And it might sound a little convoluted, but think about it for a second. Picture this in your mind, these imaginary puffy paint lines there, and we have a quadrant on the right that is on the top of the screen. We're going to use the top left corner of that upper right quadrant. Okay, that's going to be as close as we can hope to get to the beginning of the general settings category. And if I know that I'm not quite as far to the left as I should be, I can swipe to the left. But let's touch and see what happens.
General, heading.
All right, and praise God, that's perfect because it said general heading. So if I start swiping to the right, I'm going to see all my general categories.
Manage your overall setup and preferences for iPad, such as software updates, device language, AirDrop, and more.
And we keep going to the right, we're going to see
About button, software update, iPad storage button.
everything you would expect to see under general. Praise God, he's given me a a knack, a talent, a skill for this, but also there's a lot of muscle memory here because I do this frequently. So there's a lot of time spent with this, and I, praise God, I was able to land exactly where I wanted to land. If I hadn't landed exactly, if I touched it and I landed somewhere like this,
General heading.
whoops, I still landed right there. If I landed somewhere like this,
About button.
okay, that's the first category. But, I know that I can swipe left or I can swipe right. So if I touch lower down,
Apple Care and Warranty button.
I say, oh, that's too far. I wanted software update. Well, just swipe to the left.
iPad storage software update button.
You're going to find it. I mean, if you don't know where it is, you might swipe left or right until you learn, But that's the basic quadrant divisions. Again, these are fake. They're not real quadrants. It's imaginary. But I think it'll help you to understand the way that you need to find things on the iPad. And we're going to show you some other ways here in a moment as well. Now, what would happen if I kept swiping left once I got as far to the left of that quadrant that I could go? So here, I'll swipe left.
About button. Manage your overall setup and preferences for iPad, such as software updates, device language, AirDrop, and more. General heading.
There's the general heading. That's the very top of that side of the screen. We can't go any further to the left. If we were on an iPhone, the next thing we'd hit if we go to the left would be a back button to go back to settings. There's nowhere else to go if you go left. But on an iPad, what's going to happen if you swipe left? Well, let's try it and see.
Apps button.
Okay. What we just did is we crossed over that imaginary line in the middle of the screen. We now are on the bottom left of the screen. We're on the bottom left, as far to the right of that bottom left quadrant as we can go, but we're still on the bottom left of the screen, the very last category in the main settings list, which is apps. And if I keep swiping left, we're going to start moving our way back up to the left side of the screen.
Wallet and Apple Pay, iCloud, Game Center, Privacy, Face ID, Screen Time, Focus, Sounds, Notifications, Wallpaper, Search, Multitasking and Gestures, Home Screen and App Library, Display and Brightness, Control Center, Camera, Apple Pencil, Apple Intelligence and Accessibility, Selected, General.
See, we're moving up towards the left side of the iPad. So you need to be careful of this, lest you accidentally do it and not realize where you are. If you don't recognize it, you might be totally clueless as to what has happened. But when you get as far to one end of the screen as you can possibly go, if you keep swiping in that same direction, you're going to cross over. And that can be useful when you're first learning, but it's also certainly not the most efficient way to do things. I have known iPad users, for example, who want, let's say they want general, and they've selected general, and they're still on the left side of the screen, so then this is what they'll do. They'll keep swiping right, and you'll hear something like this.
Selected, General, Accessibility, Apple Pencil, Camera, Control, Display and Home Screen, Multitap, Search, Wallpaper, Notification, Sound, Focus, Screen, Face ID, Privacy, Game Center, iCloud, Wallet and Apps, but General, Heading, Manage your About button.
And finally, they find their general settings that they want. And I did that deliberately to show you just how inconvenient that really would be and why people get frustrated with the iPad because they don't know any differently. What they should have done when they were on that left side and they
Notification, Sound, App Accessibility, Selected, General button.
They double tap general. If the cursor doesn't automatically move to the right, they should have lifted their hand and touched near the top right of the screen.
General, Heading, Manage, About
And
button.
there you are. It is as simple as that. So when you learn this, when you understand this, it begins to actually be much, much simpler. So we've established now the fact that when you find something on the left, you double tap it, it selects what's there on the left, and it displays its contents on the right. So far we've only done general, and that was actually selected by default. Let's try another one. What if we select sounds on the left? I'm going to touch near the, let's see, bottom left quadrant, but near the top of that, what would be the imaginary bottom left quadrant, because sounds is fairly far down.
Apple Intelligence and Siri.
I think I need to go to the right.
Apple Pencil, camera, home, search, notific, sounds, button.
Okay, and I will double tap on sounds, and I want you to notice what happens.
Selected, sounds.
It says selected sounds. That means general is no longer selected. Sounds is.
Selected, sounds, button.
Also, I'll point out it did not move my cursor to the right side of the screen in this case, but all I've got to do is lift my hand and touch the right side of the screen in that upper right quadrant, left side of it.
Silent mode, heading.
And I'm probably pretty close. Let's swipe left and see.
Sounds, heading.
Yep, that's all there is. So we go to the right.
Silent mode, heading. Silent mode, switch button, off. iPad will play ringtones, alerts, and system set ringtone and alerts. Heading, sound volume, 100%. Change with buttons. The volume, ringtone, journey, button.
And there's my all of my sound settings. So you understand now that what you tap on the left, or double tap in our case, is going to display its contents on the right. And you understand how to quickly go from one side of the screen to the other. We're going to spend a lot more time on this, not just today, but in other apps as well. So please definitely give it some time. Be patient with it. All right. Now, what you have seen so far, again, I'll say it again, what you select on the left gets displayed on the right. There is no back button. But now I'm going to show you a situation in which there can be a back button on the right. And the basic gist of this is that when you start going into deeper and deeper subcategories, they will have their back button on the left because, or excuse me, they will have their back button on the right. On the right, it'll be the upper left side of the right, but it will still be on the right hand side. And the reason for that is because remember, what's on the left never changes. So I mean, there are some apps where it can, right? There's always exceptions, but in these situations, it doesn't. So let's take, for example, accessibility, because you might want to go settings, accessibility, voiceover, rotor. You know how you go deeper and deeper in there, right? So we're going to go to the left-hand side and select accessibility.
Camera, Apple accessibility button.
And double tap.
Selected, accessibility.
All right, nothing on the left changes.
Apple Intelligence, Apple Camera, Control, Display, Home, Multi-Search, Sounds,
But
button.
we lift our hand and we touch the right side.
Accessibility, heading.
And swipe to the right.
Personalize iPad in ways that work best for you with accessibility features for vision, heading, voiceover, on, button.
So that's a button. We want to go into our voiceover settings. We're going to double tap that.
Voiceover, switch button, on. Double tap to toggle setting.
We'll even go one level deeper. We'll go into rotor.
Voiceover, tap once, double, learn what's new in voiceover practice, voiceover tutorial, speaking rate, adjust the speech, braille, voiceover, verbosity, audio, command, rotor, button.
Double tap.
Rotor items, button.
All right, so we're in pretty deep. Now, how do we get back to the previous layer, to the previous level? Well, we would think maybe it's going to be on the left, right? No, it's not, because look what's on the left.
Home screen and app library, multitasking and search, wallpaper, notifications, sounds, button.
Again, nothing about the left has changed at all. But this time, you are in several layers now. You are in several subcategories, so that means that on the right-hand side of the iPad, the left corner, upper left corner of the upper right quadrant. Picture it in your mind. I know it sounds weird to say it. I almost chuckle every time I say it, but picture it. Remember Golden Girls, Sophia Petrillo used to say, picture it, right? We're going to imagine this upper right quadrant, and on the left side of it, there's going to be a back button. If we swipe to the left of that back button, we're going to cross over to that left side territory again. But if we are in the right place, so touch the upper left corner of the upper right quadrant.
Rotor items, button.
I'm not quite there. Swipe left.
Rotor, heading, voiceover, back button.
There it is. And notice that if I swipe left again, I cross over.
Apps, Wallet and Apple Pay, iCloud, button.
Right, so we'll go to the right.
Wallet, apps, voiceover, back button.
Double tap.
Rotor, button.
But now notice I'm still in the voiceover settings. If I want to go clear back to accessibility, again, I got to go to that same place. Upper left corner of the upper right quadrant.
Voiceover practice. What's new? Learn. Double tap. Voiceover. Heading. Accessibility. Back button.
And I might have, I don't know, let's go to the right.
Voiceover practice. Button.
That's where I was. Maybe I could 3-finger swipe down. Nope, I'm as far down as I could go. I just need to touch further to the left, because what happens is it can take up, it's not always divided in exactly half. Sometimes the left side of the screen has a smaller real estate than the right. So
Voiceover. Switch button. On. Voice accessibility. Back button.
and there it is, and that's that back button.
Voiceover. On. Button.
Now we are as far to the as far back as we can go. There's not going to be a back button anymore. So again, if you picture this, and maybe there's something else. Let's see.
Face ID. Privacy. Game Center. iCloud. Button. Wallet and Apple Pay. Apps. Button.
Where else could I do this? Maybe with apps. We could actually do it with apps, because when you double tap on apps.
Selected. Apps. Button.
Now here I would just, because I know it's the last category, I would just swipe to the right. I don't need to bother to touch the right. I can just keep swiping because it's going to be the very first thing.
Apps. Heading.
All my apps listed alphabetically.
Search. Search field. Section index. Adjustable.
So let's say I want,
up or down with one finger to.
let's say I want to do something that has to do with Safari. So I'll use the index.
Cap B. Cap M. Cap R. Cap S. Selected.
Now, if I swipe to the right,
Safari. Button.
I'm on the S's, and that's what I want.
Selected. Allow Safari to access. Heading.
Again, notice the left side of the screen.
Focus. Screen time. Face ID and passcode. Button.
Nothing, absolutely nothing has changed about the left side. But the right side has all these Safari settings. Where's the back button to get back to apps? Same place. Upper left of the upper right. And again, I'm kind of going to go more towards the middle of the screen than really the right, because I think it's probably taking up more real estate than what I expected.
Search. Search field. Double tap to edit. Settings. Heading.
So that's the left side. That's clear over on the left. But let's touch the right side.
Apple Intelligence and allow Safari to. Safari. Heading.
And there it is.
Accessibility. Back button. Safari.
Now,
heading.
it's saying accessibility back button.
Accessibility. Starbucks. Stocks.
It didn't actually take me back to accessibility. I don't know if that's because it was from before and it just is confused at the moment. I could get out of settings and back into it if I really thought it was a problem. But it took me to the right place. It's back to the list of apps.
Starbucks. Stocks. Stream. Support. Cap T. Head. Taco Bell.
Right.
Button.
All of my apps are there. So again, and that's as far back as we can go.
Search. Search field. Spell struck. But apps. Heading. Selected. Apps.
Yeah,
button.
see, and then it takes you back over to the left side. So essentially, the right side of the screen is where all the different layers, the different subcategories, everything's going to be with back buttons when they're needed. But when you're in the main list, there is no back button. What you select on the left always displays its contents on the right. And this is just very important to stress, and we'll say it, a number of times to make it easier and easier. Next week we'll be looking at it, as I said, in messages and things of that nature. So this gives you a little bit of a start on what can be a very complicated process for some people, but I don't think so. As I said, I think if you get this proper training, you can learn to do it with muscle memory. Now, there are some cases where there might be a rotor gesture that can help you until you get used to it. But I don't, it's a personal preference thing, there's no right or wrong. But I don't like people to rely too heavily on what I'm about to say, because it doesn't always work quite so consistently in every situation. There are some apps it works in every time flawlessly. There are others that it may not, depending on the way that they're set up. And that is the containers option in the rotor. A lot of times the containers option will quickly take you from one side of the screen to the other. And the reason for that is because a container is a virtual representation of a portion of the screen. And this can be very useful on the iPad, especially for new users, so you get comfortable with this muscle memory thing, because theoretically, the left side of the screen is a container and the right side of the screen is a container. So let's try this. Let's see if it works in settings. I am going to touch the left side.
Face ID and passcode button.
Now that's not what's selected. I think we still have apps selected, but I just landed on that icon. Let's turn the rotor to containers.
Words, character, voices, screen contain, vertical now containers.
All right, and let's see, without moving my hand now, what happens if I swipe down with one finger?
Apps, heading.
Yep, it takes me exactly to the right side at the top. I could swipe to the right.
Search, section index, default apps, manage default, cap A, Okinator, Amazon, Amber, button.
And if I swipe up with one finger while I'm still set to containers,
Section index, adjustable.
notice
Swipe up or down.
it didn't take me yet to the left side of the screen. It took me back to the section index. If we do it again, swipe up, it's not doing anything. So it did, unless, you know what may have happened though, let me check.
Vertical now containers.
No, it's still on containers.
Bible, button, section index,
Okay,
adjustable.
so there's a perfect example.
Privacy and security, apps, heading.
There's a perfect example of where
Matthew Volbrecht.
it works some of the time, but not all the time. If I get too deep down into these settings on the right,
Bible, button, Boggle, Arcade Edition, section index.
now it's not going to do that. It takes me to the section index, which is the top. I could swipe left,
Default, section in.
and then it sort of seems
Okay, cap A, section.
like it's not going to do that. So what let's try it on another one.
Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular, battery, jet battery, selected,
Okay. Battery, swipe down.
battery, heading.
That works.
Battery percentage, low power mode. Low power mode temporarily reduces background.
If we swipe up,
Battery percentage, battery, heading. Matthew Volbrecht.
okay, in that settings category, it worked every time. I had to do it 3 times to get clear to the top left, because the way the containers are designated, it didn't just immediately take me back up there. But if I kept swiping up repeatedly, it did. So as you can see, it works very well to go from the left side of the screen to the right, and most of the time it'll work in reverse as well. But I caution you, again, because the way the apps are set up, it doesn't always do exactly what you may think it's going to do. And I don't really want you to rely on that, because the muscle memory option is still long-term going to by far give you the best experience, right? The whole idea of a touch screen is the fact that you touch it, right? I mean, it's in the name. So if we can learn to do that, and there's no reason we can't learn to do that. Obviously, we need voiceover and we need to be sure of what we're on, and that's why they created this brilliant system of, tap once to hear where you are and then double tap to activate it. But we still can learn. There's no reason we can't distinguish, the top right corner of the screen from the bottom right or the bottom left. There's no reason we can't master that experience, and it will make it so much easier, especially on a large screen like this. If you think that the best way to navigate your iPad is always by starting at the left and then swiping to the right until you find what you want, you are going to be in for a pretty challenging and, quite frankly, a disappointing experience, because you won't get the efficiency, the quickness that you need for this to really be a useful device. And the longer you are willing to spend with it, the better it's going to be for you. It will become easier and easier. That's the soapbox for today, right? That's the thing. But as I said, we're going to keep spending time with this in different apps. We're going to answer questions in a few minutes, but I just want to mention to you now a couple of common settings that you can look at if you so desire. I showed you that sounds is there, and of course that's where you can change not only some volume and silence settings, but also you can assign different sounds to just about anything. Ringtones, text tones, calendar alerts, even the system default sound can be changed. And then, we looked at, of course, Wi-Fi, accessibility settings, the focus modes. We're going to do a session that includes focus modes later on that talks about how to set those up and, how to use them. But we have our Wi-Fi settings. We have notifications set. I mean, there's just so much. And then if you go to iCloud, that's all of your, we talked about iCloud and Apple accounts last week. Or if you tap on your name, you get all of your Apple account settings, including iCloud. And then remember that the very last category on the left is apps. And anything else you want to control, whether it's, settings for the Messages app, the Mail app, Safari, any of those things and more are going to be under settings and then apps. That's new in iPad OS 18 and iOS 18. And I really like it because it really is, in my opinion, a very, very organized way of keeping things, keeping track of things and finding those settings. And God bless you all. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Sarah for all your help, and everybody for joining us. Have a great rest of the week and a great weekend. We will see you next week.
Thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Have an additional comment or feedback? Email us info@ttjtech.biz or info@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U. That's STURITUP.com. Or check out our websites for additional resources. That's ttjtech.biz or stiritup.com. And remember, subscribe to the newsletter when you're there. That way, you don't miss out on any upcoming announcements or events. Thanks for joining us. God bless, and see you next time.